Welcome to the show, you guys. This is going to be a fun episode. I have multiple directors, producers from the award-winning film Band on the Run. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Hey, thanks for having
Thanks,
us.
thanks, Geoffrey, for having us.
Yeah, so we met at one of my favorite indie film festivals, Indie Gathering, over there in Ohio, and you guys were very kind, and you got distribution on your film. I'm so excited for you. So let's talk about it. Tell me about Band on the Run.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so Band on the Run was launched from a script that I had written during the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah, so my origin story is that I grew up here in Metro Detroit, saw Star Wars, and immediately went home and wrote a very, very original screenplay called Star Warriors.
Ooh,
And so I think I was 7 at the time, and
Still
always
to be optioned, I'm sure.
will be option. Yes. So then I discovered music and kind of forgot about screenwriting. But as time went on, I did study TV and film at a local university and got into advertising. And that's when I met these fine fellows at the advertising
Awesome.
community here in Detroit, all working on big 3 advertising campaigns, from like Super Bowl ads to mom and pop local dealership ads. And then as things kind of progressed during COVID, like a lot of folks, I had some time on my hands. I'm like, I'd like to try my hand at screenwriting again. So I wrote a
Awesome.
couple screenplays, and one of them was Band on the Run. And then just fast forward a couple years later, I talked to these jokers and said, hey, what if we did this locally here in Detroit? And then I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's been doing pretty well on the festival circuit. Tell me about. I want to hear all of it. So you wrote it. I mean, you had to get funding for this thing. You had to cast it. Walk me through all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So um, let's start with the funding. So obviously, as you know, Geoffrey, it's not a cheap endeavor to make a film.
You're opening a business, man. I mean,
Yep.
that's
yeah,
really what you're doing.
right on.
100%. And so luckily, we have been through the ringer a little bit in terms of like our own businesses and working for some bigger businesses. So I think we had a kind of maybe a mature kind of outlook of what that would look like. But to your point, we still got to find the dough, right? So Brian could tell you a little bit about Dave Engbers, who is our executive producer. But Brian worked with Dave on Dave's company, which is a Michigan company called Founders Beer.
Okay.
So, yep, Founders Brewing. And just a good buddy of ours, worked together for years. Like Jeff said, we all kind of came up in the advertising business together. And I actually have
Okay.
my own, or am co-owner of an advertising agency here in town for about 20 years. So worked with him for years and years, became good buddies. And when we were getting ready to put the funding together, he's a real creative guy. And I said, hey, I got a couple buds and we're working on this movie and I'm looking for an executive producer. And we sent him over the script. And a couple days later, he called and said, let's do it. I'm
Really?
in. Yeah. So we really, really lucked out, him coming to the table. And then, of course, we've worked with so many different production companies over the years. Like Jeff said, we've done Super Bowl spots. And so the Detroit production community, too, kind of reached out. It's like, hey, we hear you guys are making a movie. How can we help? And we're like,
That's
this
so
is
cool.
going to be great. So everybody kind of rolled up their sleeves. And I mean, you're a Detroit guy, too. So you know what the mentality is. It's like people in Hollywood that we know are like, there's no way you guys are going to pull that off. And we're like,
For sure.
we're going to pull it off. So everybody chipped in and we really lucked out. We're really blessed.
But that's what I wanted to ask you guys. I mean, so post-pandemic, Jeff wrote the screenplay, and he just gives it to you guys, Merritt, Brian. He goes, "Hey, I wrote this thing. What do you think?" I mean, at first, were you like, and then you're like, "Oh, the script is too good." Like, I want to know.
To be honest, I think the first thing was he had been talking about the script, and I think roughly I knew the idea about it when Jeff and I were working together at the same place.
So you're telling me a screenwriter was telling you about a script he was writing out of the
Can you
blue,
believe it?
just randomly? I've
Yeah.
never heard of this.
Yeah. And so I would get updates, and I think, but I hadn't read it, or he hadn't offered it for me to read yet, I don't think.
Okay.
Jeff. But when he started kind of floating this idea about us getting involved, and I read it immediately, and you are prepared to like, well, maybe I'm not going to like this or whatever, but immediately I got what his vision was. And I think, and I'm speaking for Brian too, like it kind of drew from a lot of the things that we inherently like.
Yeah, we're all music guys, and
Yeah.
It was, and also just the style, the type, it kind of drew from a nostalgic era of films that we all appreciated. And immediately it was like, well, I totally see his vision. I want to do this.
That's cool.
It was like almost no notes, right? You know,
Wow, that
was
is
that
high praise.
it really was. And so as soon as reading it, it was like, yeah, let's do this. This is
That's
going to be fun.
amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, and from there it was just like gathering the team. We started off with our cinematographer Brandon Keller. I don't know if you know Brandon Jeffrey, but he's a local
Probably.
guy. He's a little younger. He's definitely got kind of like this style that he's really good at. And then from there he helped recommend a really great team, and yeah, we put it together. We shot it in 8 days over.
That is so indie.
It was wild.
My God.
Yeah, it was wild. I don't know how we pulled it off, but we
that
did.
was another one of those things, and we step on each other all the time here. But that was another thing. We had a buddy fly in from L.A. and he's like, "I got to see what you guys have going on, because there's no way." Because he looked at the script, he's like, "There's no way you're going to shoot this in 8 days." So the second day on the set, we were driving back. He was staying at my place, and he looked over. He's like, "No bullshit." He's like, "You guys are pulling this off, and this is going to be good." And I was like, "That's a big, compliment from an LA talent."
To credit Jeff, the script was tight, so it really, there wasn't a lot of hem hawing. We couldn't afford to do any hem hawing about it. It was, and Jeff had written some stuff in pre-production to make sure that that we could pull this off. So we were looking at the timetable for sure and making adjustments. But I mean, again, credit to Jeff. It flew by because it was very succinctly.
It started with a great script.
So did you use local talent then?
Actually, probably 90% was local, and the rest,
Okay.
I used backstage to do, find talent. But we were lucky.
I was wondering.
Yeah, so 90% was local.
A great story too. The
our lead guy, Larry Bagby. A lot of people don't know Larry's name, but they've seen him. So Larry was Ice in Hocus Pocus back in the day. So I don't know if you're a Hocus Pocus fan, but there's a kid who played Ice, and he shaved it into his head in the movie. He's kind of well known.
He was also the bass player in Walk the Line.
Yeah, so he played. He played.
Yeah, I see that.
The bass player in the Tennessee Three in Johnny Cash's band. And anyways, he's a dude. He's an LA dude, but the short story is that Larry fell in love with a girl from Ontario and was in town, and I got connected with him through a mutual friend, and I sent him the script just 3 months before shooting. I actually had someone else in mind, and he read the script. He's like, "I'm in," and then I'm like, first of all, I'm like, "Are you sure?"
That's awesome.
And then he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm here for the summer, so let's do it." But back to like how we did it in 8 days, it was because of guys like Larry who are professional. Every actor on set knew their lines. The younger guys that we had as the band, the 3 dudes.
Unbelievable cast.
Yeah, no like line. I mean, I don't think I heard one actor ask for a line. I mean,
That's awesome.
just had a well-rehearsed professional cast, and it was just effortless. I mean, we had good weather in June. When we shot it, that would have been a huge disaster if we would have had bad weather. I had some friends in the local area that gave us locations at no cost. My friend Chris Johnson over at the Loving Touch in Ferndale, and he owns a couple restaurants there in Ferndale. He let us shoot there for the concert scene. So I could go on and on. It was just, man, it was just like Brian mentioned, just a community effort, and just everybody really wanted to be part of it. Jeffrey, I mentioned my email to you, but Paris from Paris Films, I met him early on, and he and I had coffee at Starbucks, and I just basically shot questions at him for like an hour, asking him how he's doing it.
Yeah, he's incredible, man. The guy,
he's a machine.
I'm working with him, and he's produced a few films
that you
and a
wrote,
few
right?
scripts. Yeah, absolutely. And the guy's incredible. He's just a machine. He's dedicated.
Yes.
He's out there. He's doing it. And I've had those sit downs with him too, just sitting down and just try and be a sponge from this guy and what he's doing. And he's incredible.
He's got it worked out. Like he's really got everything to a T, right? Like he knows exactly what he needs to spend to turn a profit.
But he's always working. I mean,
Yeah.
like he is not sitting back on his laurels. Like he's actively out there making it happen, and it's admirable, man.
Yeah. He's probably one of the hardest working dudes around town I've met. But I call him up and I said, hey, whenever I call him, he's always got time for me. He always
That's
wants to
awesome.
talk about business, and he was a huge help as we got into production. Yeah.
Well,
And
that's great.
the total community, and Jeff has been on shoots and stuff, but Merritt and I are writers in the advertising industry, so we've been on, hundreds of shoots. So we knew the basics of production don't change, the language don't change, the process doesn't change, but it's just in a longer format. So a lot longer format. So we knew what the process was going to be. So I think that's why it all kind of came together. It wasn't like we were starting from scratch and didn't know, how production worked.
Well, you've got this three-headed chimera directing this thing. And so that's my next question. I've had two directors credits before on a show and we talked about it, but three directors, I'm pretty curious where you guys were harmonizing and where you kind of had to figure out, okay, how do we make this work?
And we kind of we looked at it afterwards and thought, why did this work so well? A is because we've been buddies for 30 years. We all kind of have the same sensibilities. And what ended up happening was, if Jeff was directing for the day, then Merritt and I would be pulling the talent aside and going over the lines or going over a little bit of the direction or what was going to happen. So it really was seamless. And, when you're doing it, Jeff was running and grabbing talent during the day. And so there was a lot of back and forth. So it was kind of like a tag team thing that really made it work out well.
I think it's the reason that we were able to do it in 8 days, because if I was directing talent for the scenes we were currently shooting, as Brian mentioned, these dudes would be off in another room, having the other actors go over other scenes. So when we moved to that scene, they were ready to roll.
That's amazing.
And it just kind of worked. But trust me, I mean, I was like, man, how is this gonna work? But I called these guys specifically and said, before we started, I'm like, I need your help. This is going to be tough to do. And that's what it was all about. Just like kind of like a relay race, kind of handing off the baton and
See,
doing.
but that's so insightful because I can't remember his name. It slips my mind, but there was a young filmmaker, a local guy in his early 20s who was doing his first big feature and did it all himself, gave himself a heart attack
Oh, trust me, I was
in
almost
his
there, man.
20s.
Yeah.
So
You can
just when
understand
you
that,
go,
right?
you're like, you know what? I think I could use some help with that. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
Though that's being said, but at the end of every day of the shoot, we laughed so much. Like we left every day and our stomachs were hurting just
Oh,
because we were
that's
laughing,
wonderful.
having a blast. It really was a pinch yourself thing at the end of every day. I'm like, man, this could not. Yeah, it was stressful and stuff, but we had so much fun. And to us, that's what it was all about. And Jeff, every day, it was, we would kick it off with the crew, and every day he's like, hey, remember, we're making, this is a comedy. We're supposed to be having fun. And everybody on the set, had a good time. We had people come to us at the end of the shoot and said, that's the most fun I've ever had on a set. And it's like, well, shit, that's what we wanted. We should be. We're making a movie.
That's so cool.
I think collaboration. I mean, we have a long experience in advertising where, you're working together, whether it's an art director or a writer or with producers, you're working for the final project. And so when you get good at that and understanding all the elements to it, it's easier to work together. There's no ego involved. You're serving the project. And when you all understand what the end goal is and you can see the point of view and the vision is laid out clearly, it's not as difficult. Then it is just like Brian said, let's have fun and let's bring the spirit of that into the film.
And super
So let's talk.
collaborative. I mean, sorry, Jeff's script was
Go ahead.
fantastic, but on the set, he would say, hey, what do you guys think about this line? How's this playing? And Merritt or I would throw out something, and he would go, "You're right. Let's try that. That's better." And so there was always back and forth, and it was super collaborative.
It's about what serves the story,
Yes.
and it takes. I mean, I don't want to talk about Jeff because he's right here. It takes a big person to be able to do that, though. To be able to take a step back and be like, hey, what kind of notes do you have
Yeah.
on this line? And be able to and say, yep, that's right, and serve the story. It means the focus was in the right place. I want to hear about distribution. Where is it going to be playing at?
Yeah, so it's going to be Freestyle Digital Media. It's we took the film to I don't know, I think I narrowed it down to 6. So we were having conversations with 6. 6 were interested, but yeah, Geoffrey, you know the deal with distributors, right? Like,
Yeah,
the bigger guys are going to want to, A-list at least. And so they right away said, no, thank you. But the 6 that we were talking to, they were familiar with Larry's work. And, it's just a matter at our level, at this level of an ultra indie film, like, the offers were similar, but ultimately Freestyle gave us a little more freedom in terms of promotion. They took less of a cut than like some of the other guys.
yeah.
And it was clear that the gentleman that we were doing negotiations with, like, watched it. Because, some of these guys don't watch it.
No, they just want to get the contract and then never pay
Yeah.
you.
Exactly.
Through it, right.
So that's a real thing. Are they getting it out on streaming for you somewhere?
Yeah. So it officially is going to be released in June, and we'll have all of the locations
Good.
on our website and the social media sites. But yeah, they are waiting until next month to make final announcements on locations. But they typically, most of the films that they acquire are on this. They're not on the Hulus or the Netflix necessarily. A few are, but they're almost always on Amazon and the Tubies and those.
Yeah, but I mean, Freebie and all that stuff, like I wouldn't feel negative about that because
It's super exciting.
Tubi is a big deal.
It
Like
is now. Yeah.
they are coming up. Like I've got a couple movies on Tubi, and it's like, wow. Like my
Good.
mom watches Tubi.
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
do.
So it's nothing to feel bad about. Amazon, if you can get on Amazon, it's amazing. Amazon used to be like an indie darling until they started their own studio, and then they
Yeah. They've
kicked
done them
all
weird.
of the indies out. So like I wouldn't even put Amazon or even Netflix on that docket if you're an indie filmmaker. If you're an indie filmmaker, it's going to be Tubi, it's going to be Freevee, and that's respectable, man. People are going to watch the film.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm excited. I mean, man, it's a dream come true, right? It's like,
Dude, you made a movie. You guys
yeah,
made a movie,
we made it happen.
right?
And we remind
It's
ourselves of
amazing.
that a lot often. We did,
Yeah. Yeah,
so.
man.
Because you do get caught up a little bit on the back end. There is a little bit of the Hollywood stuff that creeps in, and the learning curve for us was like QC. It's like, all right, things like that. It's like, well, we didn't make it through QC. Why? Well, this and this and this, and it's like, all right, you got to go through QC again. So honestly, that was the longest.
That took a long
the movie
time.
was done, but the
Mhm.
QC thing and the tweaks and figuring
That was
all that
4
stuff out,
months.
that
4
was
months.
the learning curve.
Yeah. Editing is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that stuff is crazy.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to have a guy named Luke Covert. He's a Pennsylvania guy, Harrisburg guy, but he did a film called Turbo Cola, and I saw it on a Delta flight. And it takes place in Michigan, just in Grand Rapids, and I just happened to see it, and it was a well done indie film, and I sent him a note. I mean, you know how all this industry works now, right? And I was like, hey man, would you be interested in editing our film? And he was like, yeah. Well, he didn't agree to it right away. He's like, send me some stuff. I
Yeah,
want to make sure it's good, and then I'll
that's
agree to
funny.
it. Yeah. So
Yeah, and then I'll let you pay me.
exactly, and then I'll let you write a check to me.
Is there
But it was great.
anything, guys, before I let you go that I didn't ask you that I should have?
I don't think so. I mean, you can go to bandontherunmovie.com, and that's the website, and Band on the Run Movie, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Instagram.
Yep. Yeah, I just love everybody's support. Check it out.
We're excited to get it out there.
We're excited to get it out there and get some feedback, and then we're excited about doing our next one.
That's what I was wondering. Is like, I feel like you guys have the bug.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
All right.
The next one is based on a script that Merritt wrote, and it takes place in Mackinac Island. So
wow.
Yeah, I don't know how we shoot there. We'll have to do.
Yeah, that's gonna be you need a little bit more budget here, guys.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why we're hoping this does well, and we can leverage that to the next.
My wife was the dairy girl at Mackinac Island.
I love it. She lived
Yeah,
there.
I was like, why didn't I see you? Oh my god, that's like amazing. That's every guy's crush. It's every guy's crush when he goes up to Mackinac. I was like, yeah. Oh, I remember that girl.